Hey everybody, ronarray here, and I've been testing multiple rarity setups during this league. Most of the time I try to determine how important rarity is. So I tested 0% against 100%, 100 against 200, and 200 against 400. But after all those tests, a pretty important question still stands. How important is party play for your loot? So are you going to drop significantly more currency when you're going to be in the group? So I decided to retest that as well. In this video, I'm going to showcase what is the difference in your loot in general when you're playing like in the party of two, so duo play, and when you're playing solo. All of those tests been done with around 100% rarity, which is a pretty comfortable level right now to reach. So I'm just going to showcase everything that dropped and going to share my opinion, is it even worth it to run maps in duo? Let's go! So for that video, as a carry, I'm going to use a lightning spear build together with like stormlands, barrage and basic set of items to generate as much damage as possible and clear maps considerably fast. I'm also going to run lightning spear together with 110% rarity, and we're going to compare 30 maps that we are going to complete against previous set of maps that I completed for 100% rarity test before. I'm also going to ask one of my Twitch viewers, Argus, to accompany me across those maps. Thank you very much for doing it with me. The rest of the setup is going to be similar as well. I'm going to run 2 towers because it's very close to normal gaming condition when you don't have overbuffed 4 tower setup. And 2 towers with 6 tablets. One of them is going to be unique one for breach, because that way we can kill more monsters. 2 of them will have quantity, 1 will have rarity, and 1 will have rare monsters. For the Atlas, I'm going to pretty much run the same setup as I did before, it's just all the pack size node together with tablets effect, remnants of power, and bonuses for rares. And for breach in general, I'm going to run Rising Pyre, Interdimensional, Crumbling Walls, and Frantic Invasion. That way maximizing amount of monsters that I can receive from breach. So we are going to stay very close to each other during that whole test, because very important part, if you're playing in duo, you need to stay on minimap together, and only that way your bonus from party to your loot is going to be applied. Keep it in mind if you're going to play in duo, because that's very important, and it's pretty hard to make sure that you're always staying as close as possible. In terms of maps, I'm going to pick maps with at least a little quantity, around like 15 to 20%, with some rarity on top of it and rare monster bonus. And I'm going to use just Distilled Paranoia to increase amount of rares in all maps. I did it literally the same for the previous test for 100% rarity, and we're going to follow that pattern while doing that test too. But that time we're just going to be together in the party and we're going to calculate all the loot that we received. And now let's talk about the loot itself. So currently, I would say that almost all loot that I received significantly improved. Before, I've been calculating almost everything, just like most of the currencies that can provide good bonuses. But almost everything that I've been looting, including rares and especially unique items, increased significantly. I dropped much more uniques, I dropped much more all types of currency. And let's compare the numbers. The only thing that, in my opinion, currently completely unaffected by party is Simulacrum Splinters amount. So as you can see, I received Simulacrum Splinters here, it's like 3 Simulacrums in general, and I had literally the same amount before, even a little more when I've been solo. So talking about the rest of the currency, first off let's talk about the divines. I dropped 3 basic divines while playing in the party, and I dropped 4 divines when I've been solo. But it's pretty important to mention that Orb of Annulments share the same tier together with divine orbs, and we need to calculate them together. So in my solo test, I had only 1 Orb of Annulment and 4 divine orbs. I think I've been pretty lucky that time around. But when we played together, I had 5 Orb of Annulments and 3 Divine Orbs. So that's 8 in total, and when I've been solo, it's been 5 in total. So we jumped from 5 to 8 for the highest possible currency tier, which is in my opinion pretty good. PoE usually should provide about 50% of item quantity, and I think it tracks across almost all currencies that I dropped in the process, maybe except Orb of Chances right now. So for Divines we went from 8 to 5, and I think it's a pretty good bonus, so we had like 8 in PoE and 5 I had solo. For Chaoses, I received 92 Chaoses right here, against 66 when I've been solo, so that's almost 50% increase again. For Exalted Orbs, we received so many of those. It's 426 Exalteds when we've been playing in the PoE, against 312 I've been playing solo, which is generally a 50% increase again, it's almost 50, a little less I would say. And it tracks for the rest of the currency too. So for example, for the Alchemy Orbs, I received 132 Alchemy Orbs against 60 when I've been solo. So Alchemy is probably the only currency that currently got doubled. So it's not 50% increase, it's practically doubled, but everything else is just 50% more. And for Val Orbs, I received 161 Val Orb against 125. So that's approximately like 30% increase. I think the most interesting part here is increasing Divines, because it's like 8 higher tiers against 5, even if pure amount of Divines is lower, because I've been very unlucky and received a lot of Orb of Annulments. We also received significantly more Chaoses, as I already mentioned, and I think 92 against 66 is going to provide like 2 additional Divines just from Chaos Orbs, approximately. And amount of Exalteds playing less role right now in my opinion, because price for Divines and Exalts is like very high, and most of the people just focus on farming Divines itself. So I think it's not that big of a difference, but jumping from 300 up to 426 in my opinion is pretty good too. We also dropped much more Breach Stones, but I wouldn't say those doubled. As you can see, amount increased, but it's again approximately like 30 to 50% increase. And amount of Catalysts pretty much stayed very close, and I haven't dropped a lot of Jeweler Orbs. Not a single perfect Jeweler Orb too, but I think that it's pretty much random. Greater Jeweler Orbs on the other hand been heavily improved in the terms how often they dropped by patch, and I currently dropped about 12 of them, compared to only 1 when I've been solo. However, there's also a few additional things that I want to mention about PoE farming. First off, I dropped significantly more unique items, unlike all types of unique items, starting with Stangle Tank, which been dropping like very often, and going forward like unique tablets, for example, mostly grand projects, but I also dropped a few just for Breach. I haven't calculated all unique items that dropped because I just ignored that part before, but I can conveniently say that right now amount of uniques significantly improved by at least 50%, but I honestly feel like most of the uniques pretty much got doubled. So if you aim to farm unique items, I think it's very recommended to play at least in a PoE of 2, and maybe full PoE is going to provide even better bonus. Together with just like unique items, I think amount of stellar amulets and just like basic items improved as well. So I dropped only 1 when I've been solo, and we dropped 3 when I've been in the PoE, so when we've been like duo. So I really feel like most of the items dropping 50% more, and some of particular ones will probably drop closer to like 30 or 80%. So the biggest question right here, is it worth it? So is there a point to play in a PoE? And I think it leads us to the next question, how comfortable it is. It's generally been pretty uncomfortable to follow each other closely during the whole map, because when you're running too far from each other, you're losing the bonus, and we needed to always stay together to make sure that we're receiving that bonus. I would say it's pretty uncomfortable, especially if you're playing like fast build and the second person in the party is not really running that fast or missing some particular moments, or if you're blinking away, for example. And since we're providing only 50% more currency, I honestly think that you should consider playing in duo only if you're not sharing the currency. Because if right now I would take everything here and just share it, like give half of it to my duo, I'm probably going to lose currency compared to solo. So if we both would just go and farm like different maps in solo, it will probably provide more currency for both of us than both of us playing together. So I think the only point how you can play together if your party member is going to give you your currency, or for example, if he just don't have a proper build and they'll just need to follow you and do nothing. So if you're taking leechers from the chat and they're like follow you closely, I think it's making some kind of sense if you're not sharing currency at all. But if you have two players who heavily dedicated to make as much currency per hour as possible, I think it would be better if they would just play separately and try to farm more that way. Because if we will take everything that I farmed and like half it, half to my duo and half to me, unfortunately I think it's not going to be effective and they're going to significantly lose to the solo. So for example, if we take chaoses, since we had 92 chaoses, if we will share it, both of us will have like 45 approximately, 46. And solo I farmed 66, so that's a pretty big difference. That's literally one divine in profit. And I think it's pretty much leads to a conclusion when party is working only if your duo can follow you properly and if you're not going to share the currency. But is it improving loot? Well, generally yes, it's definitely improving loot, 50% increase, it's pretty noticeable, and compared to like rarity increase, I think it's working much better because quantity right now, it's pretty hard to stack on anything. It also would be interesting to retest that at very dedicated and like very juiced maps, because I think the difference here could be a little better too. But it definitely leads to more divines and more currency in general. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope it's been helpful for you to determine if you want to play in a party or if it's not worth it for you. See you next time, and ronarray out.